Hey, welcome everybody. We are so glad you joined us today. This is another episode of Jaws Coffee Chat with Jennifer A. Whitaker. Today we're focused on Houston Community College VAST program. We have with us today Sandy Pierce. And of course, I am Elizabeth Oberkirsch of Oh My VA Admin Services. We always like to say a special thanks to some great folks for replaying our shows on their platforms. Zach Clayton of the PAC Channel, Jay Soyan of the Disability Channel, and Lawrence Wingate of Wingate Studios. We definitely appreciate their support and participation. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our social media pages, groups, the YouTube channels, or wherever it is you found out about us. Let's just get right into today's conversation. Sandra, what have you got for us today?
Good afternoon. So thank you so much for having us on today. We're excited to be here. We always look forward to being on this podcast. So what we want to share today is to talk about our VAST alumni that are graduating from school, graduating from their classes, and now going on to something, right? So, and that something looks just like it does for any other college student. Some of our students that are graduating, they do meet directly with me. I'm the Director of Employment Services for VAST, and helping them to find, work, to look at, what they're interested in and connecting them to jobs. But then some of our students want to do like any other student. A lot of the students, they enroll in VAST, some to get our credential and get into the workplace, some to get our credential and to transition on to other college courses, which is one of the things we wanted to mention today. So some of our students are graduating from VAST, and then they go on and they take traditional college classes. And some of our students want to take traditional college classes, but we need to build those bridges for that. So one of the things that a constant conversation that we're having at the college is how do we create career pathways for our students after VAST? All of our presidents at our colleges are concerned about that. So we're having that conversation to kind of figure out, okay, now that we have these large number of students that have graduated to VAST, some of them are going on to employment, and we absolutely want to applaud them for that. But for those students that maybe don't meet the prerequisites to go into a traditional college class, how can we provide those supports to get them to where they want to be? So the first area in the college that we are, starting this expansion with is a part of the college that we call Careers for You, right? And so we've been meeting with that department to kind of look at all of their career pathways. Where do they offer level 1 certifications, and where can we start? What can be the baseline based on our students' interests, on what they tell us, and what level 1 certificates are offered there at the college. So we've had a series of meetings, planning for that, and wanting to make sure that we offer that to as many of our students as possible. We're so excited. We're getting ready to branch that off now. So our flyers are in marketing, and we're going to be sending out our first round of interest emails to our students next week, letting them know that where we are, with that process. So what we're going to do is offer them an opportunity to go into 2 areas: business administration for those students that want to go to school, and they finish school, so they want to go to work in an office type of environment. Could be a clerical, could be file room, could be a mailroom setting, some type of office environment setting. So those students will have an opportunity to be able to do that. And then we're going to have students working in information technology, because a lot of our students are very computer literate. And then with COVID, we all had to really pivot and get a lot more savvy than we thought we were. I know that myself, prior to COVID, I thought that I just was the guru on the computer, right? And then we all kind of figured out that we do have a lot more to grow, and there's some areas that we have to learn. So our students are very lucky in that when COVID happened, we really had to kick IT at the college as well as the universities and jobs all over. You know, we had to do things a little bit different. So that really helped our students strengthen their computer exposure. So they're interested in that. So in order for our students to go into the Careers for You program, they're going to have like a 5th grade literacy level. So after they get their interest applications, that information goes out to them. We're going to target 20. That's what we want our baseline to be going into it for our first pilot. They're going to go into an information session and express their interest, and then we're going to test them. Literacy testing through TABE test is what we use for that. And those students that score and they're ready to move forward, they'll go directly into that curriculum, and they're going to be taking that class. It's true inclusion, so they're going to be taking those classes, you know, with students, you know, without disability. So it will be a true college setting, right? Because inclusion is the key. One of the things that I'm also really excited about is not all of our students are going to meet that entry level requirement. So we've already had those discussions to determine what's the next step. How can we prepare our students to be able to compete? We want them to continue to grow. We want them to, your mind has to continue to take in new information so that you don't lose it, right? Because if we all stop learning, then we start to decline in some area. And that's true whether you have a disability or not. You know, life, college setting, work setting, is lifelong learning. So those students that are not at that skill level right now, we're going to have support classes for them, right? And so they're going to be taking classes to build their skill level to get them to the point where they can bridge into those particular classes. Once we've had an opportunity to roll this out, what we're going to do is to then expand it into some of the other areas that they offer those certificates. And I'm just going to highlight just a couple that I know that our students are going to be interested in. So one of them, we know culinary, because we have had students already to go into the culinary program and have gotten jobs and been very successful in doing that. Some of the others are child development, and some of our students, when they graduated, they had interest in those areas, and I placed them in those areas and kind of shadowed them while they got their child development accreditation. But we want them to get an official certification from the college, because that's going to help them make more money when they go into the field. You have more marketing strength when you have those credentials, industry recognized credentials that are there. Some of the other ones are drones. Like some of the students had an opportunity to kind of participate in some leisure type classes in doing that. Cybersecurity is one that our students have expressed an interest in, and certified nursing aid. We have had some of the students to actually go into Coleman College and graduate and are working in that area. Medical office, and it goes on and on. There's like a long whole list of level 1 certificates that our students are going to go into. And what we're going to do, and we're starting with this 4th cohort that will kick off, those students should be in class in March. And then as we monitor those students, then we're going to filter in the next cohort, then the next one, then the next one. So this is like a ongoing partnership that the college is committed to making sure that it happens. And we want it to be a really good model, because not only can we, kind of duplicate that in other college settings, but then that can be the segue of how do we help our students to transition in other parts of the college. So while we're doing that and transitioning our student, we also provide support services to any HCC student that may need a little bit more in order to either decide what they want to do, what they're going to major in. For example, one of the conversations that we were having, like right before we logged on, was mental health, and how do we support our students in that role. Well, prior to coming on to this segment today, I met with a student that was enrolled in another part of the college, because not all students that have disabilities come through VAST. Some of our students enroll into college, they don't disclose that they have a disability. They just, they meet the requirements, they go in, they take the classes, they do all right until they get to the point where they graduate and they need some more one-on-one employment type of assistance, something a little bit more detailed that you don't get when you just go into job placement. Because when you go into one of our job placement offices, which they are incredible and they do a lot of awesome work, and we partner with them, but they don't develop your resume for you, right? You are it's looked at that they're going to give you the tools to be able to do that. You develop the resume, but they do the prepping and all of that. But sometimes the students require a little bit more, and so I partner with them to be able to do that. But sometimes our students, a person with a disability, will also enroll in classes at the college, and they go through ability services, and sometimes they reach a roadblock because they're really not sure what they want to do. So like the student that I met with earlier today. And so what I'm doing with what I did with him, as well as some of the other students, is provide them some more individualized career exploration type of services, like actually taking them through some workshops to kind of figure out what is it that you want to do, right? Because when you go into a traditional college setting, you meet with some awesome advisors. We do have awesome advisors at the college, but they don't have the time to sit down and help you decide what you want to be when you grow up, right? They kind of expect that when you go in front of an advisor, you kind of have an idea, or you start off undeclared like anybody else would. But sometimes that reaches some frustration and some mental health issues for some individuals that with barriers. And so that's kind of like where I come in. The college is real progressive in trying to make sure that all of the staff and faculty have the resources that they need to meet the needs of our students. So one of the things that they brought to the college last year was a mental health first responder type of certification. So, and I think actually we're getting ready to roll that out, but a lot of faculty and staff, we all had the opportunity to say, hey, yes, pick me. Of course, in VAST, we jump for that opportunity because we work with individuals with barriers, and then their family members, right? So even just regular lifelong stressors could cause somebody to go into a mental health crisis. So this particular student that I was working with was kind of like teetering in that area. So, not only did they have a disability, and you graduated from high school, and you've reached this successful milestone in your life, and then here comes another stress, because what am I going to do? My siblings are, doing, they've moved on, they're graduating, they moved from the house, and then there's the stress of what am I going to do? So, I got a chance to use some of the strategies that we got, in that training, which is number one, listening, asking for the why, being able to, give the resources, and trying to really understand where the person is coming from. And is this someone that just needs resources, or is this, or is a referral or something needed to help them? And that's not just our students, right? That could be a family, member that is going through some type of crisis. I think one of the stories I was sharing before is that one of the things that I do as an independent consultant, sometimes I teach drug and alcohol classes at night. And I was sharing that, yeah, when I teach those classes, I really have to use my mental health, background or first aid responder certification in that, because whether you have a mental health issue or not, or even coming off of incarceration in some point, you have to use those skills because people are in crisis. The holidays are coming. I'm getting ready to graduate. What am I going to do? I'm not working. How am I going to meet my needs? How I'm going to meet the needs of our family? So I'm glad. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was going to say something interesting you said is that stress brings on mental health crisis, but it's actually a downward spiraling funnel, because then the mental health crisis causes stress because you can't work your job and you fear losing it, or you can't do your studies because you're too depressed, so you lose interest and drive, or other aspects where the stress brings the mental health crisis, but then the mental health crisis brings on additional stress because of your daily things you can't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suppose you get put in the hospital and then you have all day for how many days you can't even go to class, much less do your work.
Yeah.
Or your job or your studies or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then put, caring for children, in that road, or you're going through that and you're with a significant other, and it's a lot of balancing issues that go on for our students, for families, or even for adults that are on their own trying to make that transition. And so the holidays brings on a lot of that, right? Because then you even have not only the stress of not working, but it could also be the stress of having someone, in your life that was in your life no longer there. So you're dealing with that, right? Because the holidays brings back memories, and you start thinking about all that you have. We're blessed because we think about all we have, but you also think about what you lost, right? So even with me and my mom's been gone for a long time, but the holidays brings on some emotions, because of that. So, and because we're humans living a human experience, whether you have a disability or not, mental health plays a big role, in that. So as educators, and even as staff at the college, we have to, keep that at the forefront, and, and listen, listen with, and we always tell people, listen with your ears, not your mouth. So you have to really kind of hone in and make sure that we're not missing, cues that we need to be focusing on. Okay, so you're fine.
I'm sorry. Sometimes you also have to listen with your eyes, which is, say, the everyday social, I guess, expectation is when someone says, "How you doing?" you say, "Good."
Mm-hmm.
Well, once they're really depressed and suicidal, maybe they'll just say good, but then you have to look at their eyes or their facial expressions or something to see they're not really doing good.
Yeah.
They're just trying to fit the everyday expectation of we don't complain about what we're dealing with in life.
Yeah.
It's a stigma in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I know one of the things with actually the family that I was just working with, God, there's so many layers to that, because I'm also the parent of a young adult with a disability. I think I mentioned Jordan all the time because he's my firstborn. So, I think I went to, me being his mom was like life 101, right? So you just start seeing things through so many different eyes. But like even with a young adult with a disability, so like with this particular incident, so not only are we working with the mental health needs of the student, but we have to also bring in some type of the the needs of the parent, even like listening in. Because so like with me and working with our student is, okay, I'm trying to work with you and figure out, what is it that you want to be when you grow up, and you don't know, and I have to reach you in such a way to be able to help you to pull that out. So then sometimes there's a conversation with the family, and like in this one, I did, reach out, and then with the family, sometimes it's overwhelming, because even as a parent, sometimes you want to help your young adult go into the direction that they want to go into. And one of the most helpless things that you can experience as a parent is trying to push your person, your child, in the direction that you want to go. And there's some things you just can't do, right? There's some
Right.
things that you just, it's one of those things that will just drop you to your knees. And I know that, like in this particular incident, I reached out and was talking with, trying to talk with the family about that. And I can tell, okay, it's some other stuff going on, or there's this feeling of hopelessness. And so now I have to circle back and kind of like, okay, I got to come at this another way, because in order for me to get this young adult in the direction that he needs to go in, there's something that's going to need to be done with the family as well. So when I had my little session with him and we started working on our career, what is that you want to go do, career exploration, I had to give him homework. And I said, we're going to be meeting again next week. And I said to him, this is a deal. I said, we went through this and we did, personality assessments and stuff today. And I said, this is your homework assignment. I want you to go through all of these careers that we've talked about and a couple that we haven't. And I want you to tell me why you like it, why you don't like it. Either yes, you like it, no, you don't. And I want to know the why. And I said, then when we come back on, we're going to have some conversations about, the whys, because I can tell that there was some, mental health breakdown, because everything got to the point where, no, I don't like this. No, I don't like it. Why? And because you've never had that experience. So we got to break down and work on, not only, are we working on what are we going to do and what type of classes are you going to take to help build your career, but we're working on building your self-esteem, because now you graduated from school and he's so smart and such a handsome young man, but he's been so.
Well, can I give a tip?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you ask somebody to tell you what kind of job they want.
Mm-hmm.
But when they don't know, another way you can try to figure it out is ask them, what is something you want to spend hours and hours at a time doing that you really love and you would want to do every day for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've done it in my career consulting related to me as a tutorer.
Mm-hmm.
I had one student, he had no clue what he wanted to be, but he was working for his dad's company, and he just said that he likes sitting at a desk. Well, you and I can think of a whole list of careers that he can sit at a desk doing, and that just the one that was his only option until he goes to college, because no other employer besides his dad would give him a job without even a GED,
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him, if you're sitting at a desk, what would you want to be doing at that desk? And I ended up finding out that he didn't know what the job was called.
Yeah.
But he told me he would want to get into streaming. He loves streaming videos and streaming movies and streaming all these other things, but he wanted to get into streaming. And then I called somebody at the college, HCC, and asked them, what is a career and what is the major associated with streaming? So then I consulted him about getting into audio studies and audio editing and audio creation. Well, you get where that went.
Yeah.
So he didn't know the name of the millions of careers. And even as many times as I've consulted somebody, I didn't know what that career was. But I still got, so to say, the activity that he wanted to do to then research for him what is a career that involves hours at a time doing that activity. So sometimes you have to ask these students or prospective students or the general community of teenagers, what is something you want to spend hours at a time doing that you love?
Yeah. I
mean,
love
I
that.
I even found a job online that would pay me to spend 15 hours a week of reading books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I do, but where it turns to a job is that I have to put honest reviews on the author's pages after I've read that book by that whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm paid for each book that I review as long as I spend at least 15 hours, and however many books I get done is with a certain rate per review is how I determine how much I made.
Mm-hmm.
To read a shorter book, I can make money quicker. But still, I'm doing something I love, and it's a job that's paying me to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, and thank you so much for saying that. Because I'm gonna use that. One other thing that we're gonna be doing with this student is having him do some job tryouts. So that kind of piggybacks on what you just said, which is awesome. Thank you so much for saying that, Jennifer. Is that we're going to utilize if he meets eligibility, which he says he is receiving financial aid, have him to do some job tryouts in different areas, so that he has an opportunity to say yes, I like it, or no, I don't, because that's important too. Getting that experience to, sometimes you're going to say, I love this, or I would never want to do it again. And either one is good information, whether you, cross it off or keep it out. So I love that. And that's just the kind of stuff that you do. And you know what? You do that with and without disabilities. You have those conversations. Because sometimes, you do something for, well, take people going into retirement for a minute. They have careers that they've done them 20 and 30 years. And then now that they retire, they come back and they'll do something totally different. And it's something like what you just said, something that they would have done, for free, or for something that they've done for hours, but that you were at the point in your life that you really couldn't do it like that, because at that time, what was happening? You had to pay a mortgage, you had to put some kids through school, put some food on the table. So they did what they had to do in order to make a living. And so now that they go into retirement, they get to do something that they want to do, something like what you mentioned, something that they would spend hours and hours doing, at no cost. A good example of that. I know one of the things I've kind of talked about that is that I am an independent consultant in addition to working at HCC, but I had the opportunity to partner with Texas Workforce Commission, and do some shadowing of a segment of their population who was blind, right? And I was like,
Wow. I
felt like, oh my gosh. And I love that. And I thought to myself, when they asked me if I would, read up on it, and if I would shadow that group, which is kind of just making sure everything went okay, I thought to myself, I would do it for free. I would do it at no cost, because, I'm the grandma of, although I look fabulous, but honestly,
see,
I am I'm a grandmother of
right there.
I'm sorry.
I said, that's a tip right there.
Yeah,
If someone would do it, even if they weren't paid, more reason to believe that's the field they should go into. But
absolutely,
so many
absolutely.
people I found in my career consulting, in my tutoring, it's not that they're happy with the job they have, is that they don't know about the, thousands or millions of jobs out there, to know that whatever is that activity they want to spend hours doing, that there is a way to get paid to do that.
Absolutely,
I mean, did
absolutely.
either one of y'all know you could be paid to read books?
No, I
Okay,
love
so
that.
see, that's where the consulting comes in,
Mhm,
is at least in the career consulting, right? Find out what they want to spend hours doing, whether they're paid or not,
mhm.
and then go research what is a field that is where people are paid to do that X or Y activity.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that is where they should go with their studies at HCC.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if the studies aren't there, from different people in administration, you can find partnerships. It won't be you personally, but to get into administration, to then find partnerships with, say, Microsoft or Apple or all these others that HCC has, to then say, uh, do you have any need for people with these certain skills to do these certain jobs?
Mhm.
Or can you direct me in the area where I can create a partnership with somebody you know that does that? Like, let's say the book reviews, okay, that'd be Amazon, but specifically their Kindle publishing, right?
Yeah.
Or another publishing. But it's all about with us as professionals on behalf of these students to create a network to create those opportunities to then create degree studies for these students when we find that gap of where there's like mine paid to read books. Well, if there's not a degree for that, we could even possibly have somebody study English for that because it has to do with comprehension.
Yeah.
If we
Absolutely.
just start with the college having opportunities by finding these certain places that publish books and will honest reviews.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually referred one of my students in my drug offender class last night to HCC because coming out of the criminal justice system, and I feel like some of that, that'll give you PTSD and some mental health issues, with just you have to deal with. But he was saying in the class that he was having a hard time finding a job, because of this criminal background. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you have to think out of the box, think out of the box. And I'm looking at it and I'm talking to him. I said, you know what? Your voice is so strong. You have like a radio personality type of voice. He said, people tell me that all the time. I said, you need to capitalize on it. So when we went on break, I sent him some information from HCC. I said, you need to take a communications class, look at trying to get a job as, doing voiceovers and things like that. They're not going to, chances are people are not going to judge you on your background, but you're not going into a workplace. You're reading a script, you're doing this. And he's very articulate. He just made some mistakes. So that goes, the same thing, using your skill, trying out some different things that you would do, figuring out how you can, do what you need to do and get it done. Like
And the guy with the wonderful voice, he could have been given multiple options to choose among. Because what about being a radio talk show star?
Yeah.
What about opening his own radio channel set that he does research or the school helps him do research to create his own business where like how we with my podcast have places that certain applications that we pay for that send this show to somewhere around 50 places like iHeartRadio, Spotify, and everywhere else where these go out. He could do something like that, but it'd be a radio channel instead of a podcast. And he's part of the radio show, and then he has, different musicians or at least the recordings from musicians that he plays. I mean, or even working for another radio station that's already established, like Sunny 99 or whatever, right? He could go out to work for them and be one of their stars you hear talking some kind of talk show on the way to work each morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look at all those that has to do with the great voice, with good communication skills that are beyond just being a vocal artist for audiobooks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's about maximizing, like what you have. And then I'm thinking to you with all of your ideas, which are totally awesome, that, you would be an awesome career consultant, a awesome career counselor, in doing some of that because you're innovative in your, approach. You think outside the box. And that's what people need, right? Because like even in that example that I gave, he was so having a mental health crisis because of where he was and the fact that I've made some mistakes and I have a background. He couldn't see beyond how do I do what I need to do in order to move forward. And our students get in the same situation,
Well, and
and
that's
we
where I
have
was
to help
going
them.
with the importance of delivering and talking about mental health because they could cognitively know but they're impaired from those resources in their mind when the chemicals are thrown off balance. That's like personally, when I go in my depression, I even at points think I have no reason to live and that the world doesn't need me anymore. That's not true, because you and I wouldn't have been here if that happened on the 14th when I struggled with it after being hit by a car in the head. Okay, and a lot of other things wouldn't have happened. And so it's not true. But that's how debilitating it is when you're in the state of the crisis, that whatever is the reality, you don't know or see while in that crisis state.
Yeah.
You know it when you're stabilized, like you go back to see your psychiatrist and get adjustments on your medication, or maybe even put on a new medication, depending upon what's their professional opinion, and stick to their instructions. Take this certain amount of this, whatever, however often.
Yeah.
And then over time, you see yourself become more stable. And if you don't, then you have to go back and hold yourself accountable to say, I need to go back to that doctor because this, whatever that he or she did, didn't work. And in the end, once you are stable, you will see those certain things. But then that goes back to the idea that people know of these careers, or even somebody I work with didn't even know about financial aid, and she thought college wasn't even an opportunity for her because no one else in her family had gone to college, and she didn't know about the Pell Grant and other things that are for those who are already, below a certain income threshold. And she didn't know that there's financial aid for those. She thought that was just something that people who already had money got the great way that they already have money so they can afford college, and then their kids and all can continue to make good money if they go to college. I said, wait a minute, have you heard of Pell Grant? Have you heard of financial aid? Have you heard of? And she's like, no, what is that? What is a grant? And then that goes to the side that has to do with the awareness of what is the FAFSA, what is financial aid, what are grants. That the people who typically cannot afford it are the ones that get the free ride, like the Pell Grant and other things they don't have to pay back, versus the ones that this girl thought were the only ones who could go to college are the ones that are expected to pay it back because we get student loans.
Yeah.
But both far ends of the income line have equal opportunity. It's just, then again, that's an issue that's not out there enough for people like her to believe that, yes, she had a degree she wanted to get. She even stuck to the goal of the bachelor's, not even settling for an associate's, but she didn't know it was possible.
Yeah.
So this goes to the whole awareness. We need to get out there, stuff like that. The resources are out there, and that it is possible for anybody. And then also the career idea versus people being expected to know this is what I'm going to go into. Well, honestly, when I was in high school, my dad's wife was a accounts receivable insurance rep. Like, she wasn't an accountant because she didn't have any accounting education, but she was over the accounts receivable, a very specialized, low-ranking accounting job, okay? And she did the insurance billing. Well, I was told by my dad that I was great at managing money because when my parents went two different directions and my mom was in Texas, I was with my dad in Atlanta. It was just two of us in the house. He said I was great at managing money. And I told him I wanted to manage his money because I enjoy doing it. It's not just I'm great at it, and I love math. I love money and math. And he later was talking with my stepmom after, I got older and they met, and I was in later part of high school, about me going to work with her to get just a little snippet of what it's like to be an accountant. And so she got her boss to approve it for, I think it was 2 hours I could be there, which was like the hour before and during her lunch. And then the agreement was that I had to drive myself home and go back to my studies. So I didn't know until I actually went to college studying accounting, and later deciding I wanted to be a CPA, so I got a master's, okay? Until I went through all that, I didn't realize that was accounting I just did.
See?
But my dad told me, since I loved doing the job for my stepmom, no one tried to be my boss while I do the work for her, that instead I needed to study accounting. And I struggled so much through it. It was hard for me, but my dad kept telling me, stick in, you'll end up enjoying the job. Because if you
Mhm.
love what Patty does, you'll love where you're going, the job you'll get, and it will pay off to just stick with that major, hold it through, and first focus on getting through your bachelor's, and then you can think about going to grad school. Because if this is too hard, well, you know, grad school's only going to be harder.
Yeah.
In the end, I had better performance with mostly A's and only a couple B's in grad school versus undergrad. I had all B's in my accounting classes. So I did better in the harder stuff.
Yeah.
But in the end, I never became an accountant. But as you know, I have my own business. And where
Mm.
does that lead up to? I still have money and budgeting to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a requirement.
Because in the end, no matter what field I go into related to business, I have to manage money.
Hmm.
So I could be a book company, I could be a podcast company, I could be a tutoring company, but there's still that in the end that I'm doing that isn't the core of my job,
Yeah.
but is a part of my job.
Yeah. Yeah. A
So
huge
see, I didn't know that, but there's this long story about my dad that just took something that I loved, tested his theory, and then made the way.
part. Yeah, that is so true. One of the what you were saying reminds me of a video. There's a YouTube video that I have incorporated into one of my trainings for career exploration, and it talks about it takes you through your childhood experiences, right? So the video, the whole goal of it, I can't think of the name of it right now, but the whole goal of it is to you're watching this video and they ask you the question, what is it what did you enjoy doing as a child? And they say that what you enjoyed doing as a child or some of those strengths are directly related to what you're going to do as an adult, like what you're passionate about, as a young person. In most situations is going to be what you're passionate about when you're older. And then some of the people, well, the majority of the ones that take the class, they kind of sit back and they think, that's really true. It's like you're giving a divine gift about into your future with what you're naturally attracted to. So sometimes I know when I'm interacting and then watching some of our students in the classrooms, I ask that question, and even to and sometimes you're so good at something like what you're saying with your dad. Sometimes other people have to tell you, you're really good at this or you're really good at that. And it opens up a whole new conversation, because if you're really good at it, sometimes you could take it for granted and somebody else will see it and you haven't saw it yet, or
Well,
they have to ask you those questions.
personally, I thought that was a compliment, and I didn't know that was a indication of a possible career I could go into. Which goes to what I've been focusing on this whole time is that people don't know these. We have to actually pinpoint by asking them what they love to do and then identify what's the matching career.
Yeah.
And so that goes into, so you know that I write books. So of course, you see one in my background.
Mhm.
And I remember in fourth grade, I had a book club. I created it, and that was my leadership starting to show up in elementary. One girl was to make the cover, so she'd draw on a piece of paper we pulled out of the printer. Back in the early days of printers and computers. And another the girl, she did like writing or whatever. But then I was the one to create the story. And so we were a book publishing club. We wrote it, put the design on that one girl designed was the image matching my story. And then another one like collaborated together we used a yarn to make it kind of like a spiral.
I love that.
And that's how that's where in fourth grade I was showing my interest in being an author.
Mhm.
But then in high school I uh, I was diagnosed with my first mental illness before a spiral of all kinds of other conditions came can of worms open. But my special needs teacher, that I was in special needs for behavior related to my mental health condition. But academically, I was in all honors and so forth because of my excellent performance in them. So I'd go one period to my special needs class, and she basically had me just work on all my homework. That was study period. That's how she made it. But I had to start that study period with certain coping mechanisms she taught me, which was to write half a page on notebook paper about my day. I had to journal about my day to express the emotions. And that's how she taught me to basically cope, as opposed to yelling at somebody or to have to talk to somebody. I just write it out on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Now she graded my writing, so I had to use it to also practice, good grammar and things like that. And that's where it was educational and not just giving me a way to cope.
Mm-hmm.
So at home, when she had me doing that, I wrote this book that's just to my right. And that was where I decided at home, I'm going to every night, part of my bedtime routine, write a poem that expresses how I feel. Because I was frustrated with my teacher saying it had to be proper English and it had to be, complete sentences. So I said, fine. Then at home, I'll make it a poem instead of having to stick to all those rules.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, it ended up that everybody who read this book, that's in my background, gave me 5 stars. And then I thought, oh, well, I didn't make much money off of that, so that must not be the field for me. But then rush 10 years later, and and by then I had at least 3 years of all these people telling me all these stories I tell would be great stuff for people to read, and because they're so interesting and they think I can make money off of it. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to get into this whole business of writing, editing, and publishing books.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that on a client based, but I also write, edit, and publish my own books. So now I'm at a point that not only do I write books with, I think it's 6 or 7 of mine already published. You can find Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all that. But now I even in the last year got a deal with a movie production company to write scripts for them that are now produced as movies.
I love that.
So see, it opened one door at a time as I learned to accept all these opinions from different people.
Mm-hmm.
But as a kid, publishing those books with the yarn through the holes and all, I didn't think there was a real job.
Yeah.
But then I ended up similarly with finding out when I was in the top 3% of the nation in high school, among my class, but yet special needs. My different class, because it was a different year, but my special ed class teacher asked me if I would be willing to teach the elementary kids zoned to my high school my secret. How am I so successful in ranking so high in the nation, yet special needs at the same time? So I said, well, can I go during school or how's it going to work? Will I end up being counted unexcused absence? She said, no, she says you just have to be here the first 15 minutes as your first period, then go to the certain spot for you and the other tutors to go to ride this certain bus to elementary. Then you have to be back and be in the last 15 minutes of I forget how many periods, but your last period.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that way you can go see the last part, and then you'd be responsible to do all that day's homework and classwork over the weekend to have it turned in by Monday like everybody else. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then rush forward, my company I had before the pandemic, it failed the pandemic, but that was a tutoring company.
Mm-hmm.
And I, by then, can say, and I still tutor now for 23 years.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up with 8 careers, because there was this and that stuff that I all enjoyed doing. And piece by piece has been brought to my attention that these are all careers. But that's to say, how many people have those similar lives,
Yeah.
but they don't know these things they do can be jobs until they meet
Yeah.
that somebody.
I'm so glad that that you are on this, that we're on this podcast together, because I know I've done this. This is like my third time, but I think this is the first time that I've been able to interact with you as much. And I'm like, my juices are just flying. I mean, I absolutely love it, love it, love it. One of the things I did, because I said I'm a parent of a young adult. My son's 29, he has autism, and communication impacts him like greatly. And I'm like listening to you, and I'm like, and I'm thinking while you're talking, I'm like, girl, pull that back out, because I wrote a communication binder, right? I haven't really named it, but I have a lot of I have Jordan, and then I have HCC students who struggle with communication, right? And so prior to COVID, we did internships, and some of them I got jobs because an employer got a chance to see them beyond their lack of communication, right? So I get so irritated and emotional because I'm very compassionate about that. People with barriers to communication, that lack of communication being a barrier to them going to work, right? And so what you were saying, and so I wrote like a manual like over COVID that I had been working with Jordan on, that I'm gonna end up leashing out free, because I need a study group to be able to see it, because I want to look. I think I really feel in my heart that God gave me an opportunity to figure this thing out during COVID, but I want to open that door for some young adults that have disabilities that can't communicate like we're communicating on, having a dialogue, but giving them a platform to be able to interview successfully so that they can get into work. And that like mirrors so much about what you said, testing things out and looking at what your skill sets are, because all of that's, well, some of that's been done with a lot of them, but then you have that. And then once you're able to go to where you've been, you got to get it out and be able to communicate and convince an employer to give you an opportunity to get on their payroll. I love what you're saying, because it all goes hand in hand, pulling that out, the mental health. There's so many pieces to the puzzle that has to fit perfectly so that you can help somebody to get to, that next road. So I love that. I'm so glad that I'm glad that Sue couldn't be here today, so that oh God, she's gonna watch this podcast. But I'm glad that we had an opportunity to have this conversation, because just hearing some of the things that I hear that you've shared, it's gonna help me to go back and bring some of that out with some of our alumni. So thank you for sharing that.
Definitely. And it's time that we go off air. Would you
I
go
was
ahead
just
and
going
give
to
our
say, I
final
hate to
words?
stop
And
this.
then Sandra, I'll be talking to you after we go off air.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I hate to stop. This has been a fabulous conversation. It's just gone beautifully.
I know.
Hey, put it on our notes. Two more weeks, and we'll be starting this all over and continuing it. Right, Miss Sandra?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if our audience, those that are listening, if they liked what they heard, certainly, I'm sure Sandra can put her contact information in the chat, and we'll make sure that information gets out there. And also, we want to let our audience know that if you liked where the conversation was going and what Jennifer had to say, she also does public speaking. So if you would like to support our podcasts, or ask her to come speak to your group on any of these kinds of conversations, we're going to put in the chat her Calendly link so you can reach out to her there. And seriously, if you can't find a spot on her calendar, she's more than welcome to receive a text message from you, and we'll put her phone number in there as well. So definitely reach out, start some communication, start some conversations. We'd love for these types of conversations to continue. Jennifer, do you have any specific announcements that you need to add today?
I just want to remind everybody we're going to have I think it's the first Friday. No, it's the second Friday of each month. So that will be not tomorrow, December 1st, but December 8th, when we have Jews in the Hot Seat podcast. Also, we are always looking for guest speakers to be on Project Diehard's PDH Mission Monday. If you're interested in helping and working with veterans or donating or being a part of their podcast and so forth, please email Monday at projectdiehard.org. That's MONDAY at project DIEHARD.org. And we will give you proper forms to fill out for approval for going live on the Monday of your choice. But Project Diehard's PDH Mission Monday is at 6:30 Central every Monday, 6:30 p.m. That is Central every Monday, which is 7:30 Eastern p.m. every Monday. We have plenty of excitement going on. As EJ was saying, we have deals for me to be live and public speak. We have new opportunities for sponsors to support us. And in return for supporting us, we will place ads and spills on the podcast to promote your product or service. And if you are interested in promoting a product or service on our podcast, please also call 346-439-8393 or go to calendly.com/Jen's Books and More, calendly.com/JENNS Books ANDMORE, and schedule to be on with me. Please spread the word. We also are in process of adding a page on jensbooksandmore.com where there will be jobs, where another one where there will be public speaking opportunities that different companies can sponsor and fund for me to talk about various topics ranging from mental health to epilepsy and even beyond health into education, youth related programs, business, and a wide variety of other things, even like we were talking about autism and my Asperger's. Anyway, so we've got a wide list of variety, so please be sure to check out our website. And if you're interested in finding out what are these new opportunities and these new wide variety of services we're bringing, you can always email me, Jen, JENN, .ace, my course at Gmail. That's JENN.ACEMYCOURSE at gmail.com. And back to you. Thank you, EJ.
Well, she pretty much said it all. Like I said, Jen always has a lot going on in the background. So she is a whirlwind of fun to be around. So we just want to thank everybody for being here with us today and listening to our rebroadcasts. Our episodes with the Houston Community College and VAST program has just been a boom and wonderful for us to take part in. So we appreciate Sandra being here again today. I believe we will be back December 14th. Am I correct in that? Okay, I got a thumbs up on that.
Okay.
So yeah, December 14th, 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern. So we hope to see you there. And again, be sure to subscribe to our channel or a page wherever you found us at. And check out our website, jensbooksandmore.com, to find out more about this and other podcasts that we have. So until next time, we wish you a productive and enjoyable week. Take care.